Hello and welcome back to the next lecture. In this one we'll be talking about variable switches. And you might have heard about this, I might have mentioned it before. It's a very interesting topic because it is a different way of using a template because the data flow is kind of reversed. It might sound weird at first, but it will be a time saver, and once you understand the concept about variable switches, you can do quite a lot. So let's just jump into this and work with this environment switch. And right now, this is just a default switch which we can enable with 1, 0, 1, and 2 to change our different gaffers. So let's say we have a output at the bottom and we want to incorporate variable switches now. So instead of having this shadow pass, let's just actually hook these guys off, and because these ones, we will be talking about these op scripts a bit later, I'll just move them on the side here. So right now what we have is a beauty pass and a shadow pass. So let's say we want to have always rendered 3 of our turntables at once. So let's just keep this beauty, and I'm just copying this guy here, and I'm just moving it maybe a bit up like that, and I'll just paste the render output here, here, and here, and I'll call this I think we have a studio one. I don't recall all the ones. We've got garage, studio, and sun. So let's just keep this in order. Rename this guy to garage. Enter to rename underscore studio, and then enter again and underscore sun. So these are our 3 render outputs. So now what we want to do is let's just move these 2 guys out of the way for now, and just connect this up from here and do a dot node like that, just to clean it up. Nothing really important right now. So let's just hit the tilde key, move down while it's active, hit the period key to get a dot, and we do repeat that. We do tilde again, and we just hit a dot here and go down like that. All right, so this is now our little network, and what we want to do now is work with variable switches. Let's just extend this a bit more so we get a bit more room to work with. So let's just view from this bottom node, and currently you can see, even though I'm viewing from here, nothing changes. What I would like to do is, if I view from that, the switch changes. If I view from that, the gaffer changes to studio, and so on. So the idea is to create a variable set. So we type in variable set at the bottom from where you want to render, and we just call this maybe pass or output. Let's just call this output. And then the variable value in this case, let's just call this garage. This is the string, if I can type it properly, garage, like that. And a cool thing to do is use an expression again, because we did that before and it was working very well. So instead of always renaming everything, let's just call this VS, and then we just type in garage for variable set garage. And then the value, we do an expression. We did it in the previous lecture, so you should be familiar with this concept. We do get, we do self get note get name. We need to do a function call. So we have the name, we do a dot split. We split by underscore, and we choose the last one in that list, in that array, and we make sure it's lowercase just to be short. And now whenever we have a variable set, the name is set automatically. So if I copy and paste this and rename this to studio, we should see that the value is to studio. And we copy and paste this again and rename this to sun. Okay, so now whenever I view it, you can see that the variable sets are being activated, and the value is being changed accordingly. So I can just move this maybe all the way down here so I don't have anything after this. And now the cool thing happens. There are two different nodes to actually work with variable sets. We have, if you type in hit tab and type variable, you have variable enabled group and a switch. Both have its purposes, and for now we will be working with the switch. And let's just enter and create that. And the switch itself looks very similar to a regular switch, but it's kind of switching automatically. You would not have to change those values. So how it works is you have a pattern and you have a variable name. So our variable name is output because that's what we define as the name at the bottom, right? So the variable set here has the name output. So we want to make sure that our switch has the same variable name. And now what we can do is we can just hit the wrench, add new port, and hit the wrench again for the next item, and just rename this to garage. These names need to be exact, or actually, I mean, this name needs to be the one we are setting. So this is important to keep it consistent. And then you can create another one, new port, rename the port, and rename this to studio, like that. And we do it one more time, and wrench icon, and call this sun. So now we have these three outputs. And now it's kind of straightforward. We just, instead of having the switch, let me just delete this guy and delete all these nodes here and move this guy in that same location. And now what I do, I connect the Gaffer garage to the garage input, the studio to the studio, and the sun to the sun. And then obviously my output needs to be connected here. And this is now my connected, the input's connected to that Gaffer, to that variable switch. And you can already see something is happening. I'm currently viewing from the garage, and you can see the garage is activated. So if I now move or view from the studio, the variable switch switches and the studio is enabled. And then obviously if I view from, let's just make it full screen so you can actually see what I'm talking about, like that. If I now view from the sun, you can see the Gaffer, sun is activated, studio, and this is how a variable switch works, and in general variable sets as well. So now we have a few more things to address. So we can be talking about VEGs, or variable enabled groups. Similar concept, but a bit of a different design. So what we can do instead, we can create a VEG, and with like this VEG has a variable name and a pattern. So this group will only be enabled if that pattern is matching. So the variable name, as we had before, is output because we defined that at the bottom. And then the pattern is the variable you want to match to. So if I type in garage like that, obviously it's not connected, so this will not work. But let's say for the garage, I want to do a few things. So if I hit the plus, I open it up, and let's say I want to prune something. I type in prune, which deletes objects, and let's say I want to create a material, connect that up and connect these guys together, and maybe I do a material assign. Obviously this does not really make sense, but I just want to show you the idea behind this. So all these things are happening within this group. And now if I hit the plus again and I connect this up to, it doesn't even need to be in the switch. It can be wherever you want it to be. Let's just move it after the switch so it's clear that it's not part of this whole thing here. If let's just give us a bit more room here, move the thing down, okay. And if I now move the variable enabled group to the left and I click the tilde key on the switch and connect it to my prune, and then the material assigned back to the controller, you can see now that a VEG, or variable enabled group, is connected. Obviously you would need to name it properly, so let's just rename this to garage. And if I copy and paste this and connect this up and change my name to studio and copy it and paste, and this one would be sun, Oops, now I double clicked. So if you double click and you want to go back, you can actually hit that arrow in the scene graph and just view from the previous node. Garage back to sun. And obviously you would need to change your pattern. So the pattern for sun is sun. And for studio, we obviously have studio. And you can see they gray out immediately because I'm viewing from the garage and that group is now enabled. If I now view from the studio V, you can see studio is activated and then the sun is activated. So this is the concept behind a variable enabled group. Very similar, but it's a bit cleaner. You can put lots of things in here, and only what is when the pattern matches, only then that group is enabled and the contents is being run. So I hope the concept of variables is pretty straightforward, and in the next lecture we will be talking about a different kind of variable which is called graph state variable. But we will do that in the next lecture. So thank you guys for watching this, and I will see you in the next one.